I knew it was none of my housemates coming back from a night out or something like that. And also, why on earth would they say that in your room at like, who knows what hour? But my brain knew it was Christ. I knew straight away it was Christ. It was the most recognisable voice ever. It's almost like just meeting your best mate down, you know what I mean, down the local pub or something like that for like a quick catch up and a pint. It was the most recognisable voice ever. But I chose to ignore it because I was scared.
Where'd you grow up, mate?
So I grew up in Portsmouth. Actually, I grew up in two places. So I was born in Portsmouth. I moved up north to East Yorkshire when I was 1. Obviously, I don't remember that. I lived up there, so for the early stages of my childhood, from when I was about 1 till I was about 11, I believe, 10, 11 age. And then my parents divorced, so then we moved back down to Portsmouth and resided there till 18, till I came here to uni. And then been here for university, done my undergrad, postgrad, and now I'm here working for the church. So
we're in Aberystwyth?
Aberystwyth in the west part of Wales. I have to admit, I never thought I'd be coming to this place, but here we are, you know.
So what's growing up like for you?
So growing up, it was busy. It was very sport heavy as well. So I've got loads of other siblings. I've got a twin brother. 2 younger sisters and also a stepsister as well. And growing up, it was quite a busy household. You know, it was never a peaceful day, but also at the same time, it was quite peaceful. I'm really close with all of them, with all my siblings. And growing up was mostly just dedicate my life to playing football, sometimes doing a bit of golf. You know what I mean? One thing I used to do a lot, and I still do now, is a lot of walking as well. So whether that's just even if it's like a half an hour walk, or whatever it is, I'll try and get one in every day. I don't know, there's something about it, I absolutely love it. School-wise, school was really good. I was privileged enough that I'm able to have an education and go through that whole system. So GCSEs were good. A-levels, I studied physics, maths, geography, so quite intense A-levels. Thankfully, COVID hit, so I didn't actually have to sit them. I was a bit worried towards the end, and then obviously the world basically shut down as a result from it. So didn't sit them, came here. I studied geography as a bachelor degree, so mixed geography in physical and human geography, and then sort of done a bit of a panic masters in human geography, and I've just finished that as of September time. So it's been a bit of a heavy sort of upbringing. You know, my parents, although they divorced quite early on in my childhood, they both bent over backwards to help us out no matter what, no matter where we go. But also my childhood, I was very anxious as a kid as well, like very, I used to be scared of like bus engines, for example, and things like that, you know,
How did that come out? Like, were you, like, how did that express itself in your life?
I used to just, like, in terms of emotion or, yeah, so I used to just break down. I remember there was a lot growing up, especially in schools, and one big thing I never used to like was change. Right. I used to be absolutely terrified of change, to be quite honest with you. There was just something about it that, I don't know, I just always liked that constant, that same pattern, that same routine. Obviously, luckily with time, I've got a lot better, and I actually quite like change now. But it used to come out in the way where I remember I just broke down a lot in school, and just really mentally I wasn't okay at times as well. That anxiety almost resulted in depression at times, and I remember when I was 14, 15, I did try and take my life because I just thought, you know, when you're in a dark pit and you don't know where to turn or you don't know who to turn to, you know, when you're in such a mindset, I think you can only understand it if you're in that mindset, and it just, something in me was just like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. But luckily through God's grace, I'm still here, and God's love, I'm still here. So yeah, it's all thanks to him.
So in that time, did you stay living with mum or dad?
So I was living with my mum, predominantly. I nearly did live with my dad because I was just not happy. Nothing to do with like the parent relationship. I just wasn't happy with that sort of city vibe of, you know, so like I said, I'm from Portsmouth, so that busy city vibe. And I thought where he lives in sort of a quieter rural town, I thought that might be a bit more better for me. But I remember like a week after, I was like, this isn't working already. I know you say to give it time and things like that, but it's one of those that I was just like, this isn't working at all. So I grew up mostly with my mum, but, you know, it was a thing that although I saw my dad maybe once every 3-4 months, I always used to try and, FaceTime most weeks, or, just really stay in contact. And I still do now, even living out here now. I still try and FaceTime them at least twice a week. It's weird because although I'm far away from them, it doesn't feel like that at the same time. They probably hear more from them than what they do with my other siblings back at home, for example.
So you've got a good relationship.
Yeah, I'm very, very lucky enough where, like I said, they've bent over backwards for me, and I know I can always go. There's no filter, there's no boundaries. I can just go to them with whatever's on my mind and my heart, and I know they will happily sit there and listen. So,
what are the big passions and things in your life that you just love? What's the stuff you
West Ham to start with. I'm a massive football fan. So West Ham, I love it. I love it, especially when we won the Conference League last year, mate. What a night! What a night! But my big passion is, so to say, for some reason, it's the countryside and nature and the outdoors. There's something about the outdoors I love, and I think that's why I like sports so much, because it takes your mind off things, and that, even if it's like a football match or something like that, it just really keeps your mind different and keeps it busy, thinking, I've got to mark this person, or I've got to do that, got to do that. But one thing I've always felt connected to, and I've always had this growing up, is sunsets. There's something about it. I always say there's no sunset or there's no cloud exactly ever the same. And funnily enough, I discovered that later in life with testimonies and stuff like that as well. But there's just something about it, that seeing God's handiwork. I know, almost like referencing Psalm 19 in a way there, but there's something about it. It humbles you and awes you in a way that, I don't know, words and mind cannot explain. So I've always felt connected with them, and just being at peace with the countryside. That's why I love ABBA so much, because you can walk 5 minutes out of the town, bang, you're in the middle of nowhere, no one's around you, and you're really immersed in the countryside. I don't know, I just love that, man. I just absolutely love it.
So when you say you love ABBA, you don't mean the band?
Well, it depends on the karaoke night. I don't know about that one, but yeah.
So we're sitting in a beautiful old church.
Yeah.
Were your family a religious family? What's the story?
No, so I'm from a complete non-Christian background, complete non-Christian. I know my grandparents used to go to church a little bit, but they don't anymore. This was many, many moons ago. I know my mum attended Sunday school, but never connected. No one's ever connected as such. So complete non-Christian background. But I feel like now, since becoming a Christian, I'm going to try and break that and try and turn it around almost. So yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. How did you become a Christian? What was the first kind of point of contact? So the first point of contact, actually, I remember I was walking my dog. So I've got a sausage dog, and she is my world. I absolutely adore her. I actually got her during lockdown, and it was like, I remember just always taking her for walks, always feeding her, and she's like a Velcro dog. I mean, she just stays by my side. But I remember I was walking her, and one day I just remember, for whatever reason, this was about 14, 15 years old, I remember reading on this gravestone, Home with the Lord. And something in me, I don't know why, because I never would have connected with that or never, but something in me was like, that seems quite cool. I just felt like a peace with it. But then at that age, I was also suffering quite bad mentally, so I didn't think much of it or anything like that. But it kind of stuck in my brain a little bit, but I didn't really act upon it or anything. I did religious studies, GCSE, and I learned a few things from that, but I never was a Christian at the time. I never connected with it. I don't know, I just done it because it was an extra GCSE, to be quite honest with you. An easy one.
Yeah, for me, because I enjoyed it because the teacher was really nice and the class were really nice as well. And for me, as someone who suffered with quite bad anxiety in school and stuff like that, that was almost perfect. That was a perfect setting. So yeah, that was the first real moment. Yeah.
So talk us through a bit of a timeline. Did you then go on this search and, or did it just lay dormant until something happened? So it actually lay dormant. I always used to be kind of interested in the sort of spiritual side of life, like ghosts and things like that. I don't know what it was about it. Something caught my interest. I don't know whether it was like watching Most Haunted on TV or something like that. But it just, something really caught my eye. But it lay dormant up until I was 19. And I explained to one of my friends who was a Christian at the time, I was a bit like, I'm kind of interested in that and stuff like that. And she was like, come to church. And I thought, fine, I don't really want to, but here we are. So where we are at currently is St Michael's Church, Aberystwyth, and this was the first church I actually came to.
in my second year of university. So obviously there's a big time period between that where I wasn't really searching or anything like that. I came here and I remember like just sat at the back of the congregation like thinking, right, I've got to get through this and I'll run away at the end. But when I got to the end of the service, I remember just breaking down in tears and I thought, oh, I can't be crying because there's a high woman to men ratio there. I can't be crying because of things like that. And I thought, actually, no, this is something beyond that. This is something beyond description. And then then it started in my mind, I was like, why am I crying in the church? What's happening with my life? I mean, why on earth am I here, let alone crying in a church? You know, being so vulnerable and showing emotion in a place where I know absolutely no one, by that one friend who I said to her, I was like, you can sit over there. I'm sitting well over here at the back. So that was my first real sort of time coming. But then I started coming back every week. Something in me was like, no, I want to go to church today. I don't know why. I just enjoyed it. And I enjoyed being in that period of peace with it. There was something about it, you know, I was enjoying uni life. I was still searching for those Friday, Saturday nights out, I must admit. But at the same time, there was also that peace on the Sunday. Because I always used to think Sundays were daunting. I think because it can leave you so mentally exposed, especially if you don't have church, if you don't have things like that. You know, those Sunday evenings, especially when it gets a bit colder and a bit darker earlier outside, it can leave so many of you just, you know, you get that Sunday scaries before the week comes along. It can really leave you just, I don't know, feeling isolated. So I was quite thankful that I could come here and just keep myself busy on the Sunday. So a bit of time passed, and for the whole of my second year at university, I was coming here, but not really. I didn't really feel anything after that first time, but like I was okay with that. I was just more happy just to sit at the back and just observe, really. Obviously, I was taking part in things like communion, and when like some of the liturgy comes on, like confession and stuff like that. I was more than happy to do that. But at the same time, I didn't really know the true understanding of it. I didn't know much. I've barely read the Bible in my life prior, and things like that. But at the same time, I still wanted to search for something. I still wanted that. I knew there was something there, but I didn't know what. And it got to my third year, and the same sort of pattern happened. So actually, between my second and third year, I'd done Camp America. So I was out in Massachusetts, leading hikes, teaching football, things like that. And I remember at the same time, I was like, right, I've downloaded the Bible app on my phone. I'll try and read it. And for some reason, I started on Revelation. What a great place to start if you've never read the Bible before, you know. So obviously I'll be reading it, I'm like, what is this? I'm going to put this straight down. I think that taught me quite a good lesson in that one. So, but I don't know, I was still searching time, still sort of, like, obviously I did question a few things, but that's just early Christianity for me. That's what it looked like, just a lot of questions and no answers at the time, basically. So I came back from America, third year of university, going to my final year. I was so lucky enough to be the president of a geography society here as well. It was one of the biggest on campus, but it was more just a massive, let's get hammered society. It was more of a geography and education on the side, bars and massive sessions on the main go. But so that was what my third year looked like, and there were so many good people and so many good friends around me, and it was just an incredible time. And I was still coming to church and I was still searching for something. And there was a local couple here who housed students every Sunday evening for like just a small worship thing, worship group. And I remember they said to me, like, one of my friends invited me to their house and they said about like a spiritual soaking session. So I thought, oh, I'll go to that. I thought, we'll give it a try. But I'd never forget the night before I went out, and it went terribly wrong because the next day, whilst you're laying there like peacefully and quiet whilst all this music, I was so hungover to the point I just fell asleep there and then. I remember everyone was really silent, really trying to connect with Christ, and there's me just snoring my head off, you know, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But so although like that was that, the feeling I got after was like, okay, this is quite enjoyable. So throughout the year, it was still kind of dormant. I was still passive at the back, just running away at the end. And then it got to about the May time of my third year, and I'll never forget, they asked me, would you like to commit your life to Christ? And I was going to be honest, I was like, no, not at this minute, because I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know, you know. It's like almost like, I don't know, the way I could describe it is almost like stepping into like a foreign country and they're almost instantly going like, do you want to go to the roughest part of it in a way? That's what it felt like to me. So obviously I was like, absolutely not. But then the next month, June, I remember we were down at the bottom of one of the hills, just going through like the rock pools and stuff like that, you know. It was a lovely, lovely day. I'll never forget, beautiful day. Something in me, I looked at this hill, I thought, I've got to climb it. I've got to go up it. I really have to go up it. And I thought, maybe that's just my country mind, like countryside mind talking or something like that. I thought, because I wait till after work, because I'm a cleaner in a school, so in the local school, and I still am to this day. And I thought, I'll put it off. I'll give it a couple of days and then I'll see if I've got the same feeling. But as I went through that shift, something in me was like, you've got to go up it today. It was like screaming inside me. So I thought, right, I better not ignore it. I'll put my walking boots on and take a little stroll up. And I'd done something which I'd never done before, which was pray out loud. I was always terrified of it, especially since coming into a church, you know. And I was like, how on earth? I don't know, there's just something, I thought, this is weird. And I went up this hill and I started praying out loud for about 40 minutes or so. There was no animals, no people around me, nothing around me. I remember watching the most beautiful sunset falling, thinking, I don't know what I'm searching for, I don't know what's going on here, please, 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 I need something. And I remember as I finished praying, there was like a flock of sheep that come out just from behind as well. I thought, that's incredible. But obviously I didn't really understand the resemblance or anything. I was like, you know what I mean? This is just perfect timing, how there's some sheep that's just come out after. And then I went into that summer and I was still searching. I was still dormant, still searching. So this was a long period of searching, a good 18 or so months, probably beyond. And I remember I was going through some difficult times just mentally, and I was letting my own mind affect me. Really let my own mind affect me to the point where I was overthinking. I was hurting those around me because of my own mind and not because of my own self. You know, that almost separation between heart and mind and how it can lead you astray. And I remember sat in the field. I was actually in Cornwall on a holiday. And I remember I took myself on a walk to a field. I sat there, I thought, God, I need something. I need to know if you're there with me or not. I need to know. And oh boy, was that the start of something incredible. So I got back to ABBA for my master's year. Obviously, that bit of period of time, I thought, right, let's start going to church and we'll see what happens from there. So I come here September time, and I remember one night I went to bed like usual, so I sleep with an eye mask on. For me, I always used to be scared of the dark, not the dark, but like, I don't know what nighttime can bring and things like that. I don't know, especially in your own thoughts of mind. I thought if it's complete pitch black, it's almost like an essence of safety the eye mask brought to me. And I always listen to my rain noises on my TV on the Xbox as well. So I set everything up like normal. And I just remember I started to almost pray as well every night and every morning when I woke up and went to sleep. I just thought, let's just try and get into a habit of it. I don't know, something in me was like, let's just try. So I remember going to bed that night, absolutely normal. And then I still remember this day, 14th of September, 2023. Like, I remember it like that. And to be honest, my memory's usually shocking. So for me, that's quite the impressive part. I remember one night suddenly just hearing like the loudest but quietest voice. I could only describe it as, Toby, do not be afraid. My brain was like, because it almost sounded like a Middle Eastern accent in a way. Like, I knew it was none of my housemates coming back from a night out or something like that. And also, why on earth would they say that in your room at like, who knows what hour? But my brain knew it was Christ. I knew straight away it was Christ. It was the most recognisable voice ever. It's almost like just meeting your best mate down, you know what I mean, down the local pub or something like that for like a quick catch up and a pint. It was the most recognisable voice ever. But I chose to ignore it because I was scared. I was absolutely terrified. So, like, I kind of woke up, but fell straight back to sleep. So it happened when I was asleep. I thought, I'll just ignore it. I felt as soon as I shut my eyes, bang, he said, Toby, do not be afraid, but more in like a sincere, like, do not be afraid. But as the same time he said that, what happened was I felt the most uplifting feeling. So the way I can describe it was, it started from my head and went all the way down. It just felt like, I don't know, like the most warmest feeling ever. It felt like I just stepped into like, I don't know, just like the Mediterranean or something like that. You know, it was beautiful. But it just pushed out any anxiety. It just forced out any anxiety. It was the weirdest but most comforting feeling ever.
So that happened without you sort of cognitively processing it almost, like that pushing out of fear, it just happened as you heard.
Yeah, so it literally just happened. It was almost like something had entered my body and pushed all the worries and the pressures away from me. And as he said that, I knew it gave me that comfort to take my eye mask off. It was a feeling, I don't know, it felt like a warm blanket being put around me in a way. And I took my eye mask off, and there was Christ himself stood in my room with his hand on my head like that, looking at me as if I was the most vulnerable, like 5-year-old, like I've just smashed my dad's greenhouse, and he's like, oh, it's okay, like, don't worry. But it was the most overwhelming feeling as well, because he was stood right there, but I felt worthless in a way. He was that beautiful and that incredible that I felt so worthless and just so like, I don't know, I remember I fell at his feet and I just started crying. I said, I'm so sorry for everything. I'm so sorry for Dowson. I'm so sorry for everything. I'm so sorry that, I don't know, that I just didn't believe. And I just remember him saying, it's okay. And he gave me the biggest hug ever. And then what happened from that moment on, he took me through moments of my life where I was at my lowest and showed me where he was stood in them. So we're talking, going back to the field that I mentioned in Cornwall, like he showed me where he was stood. And it almost felt like it's hard to describe because I've never had a thing like that before, but it almost felt like I was stood with him looking at like myself. It was really such a weird thing. He showed, like in Cornwall, and I knew how real this was because he showed me a moment where I remember breaking down in my mum's bathroom when I was about 14, 15, thinking, when I was really, really depressed, like I mentioned earlier, thinking, I don't know where to turn to. And he showed me where he was stood in that moment, looking at a younger self of me. And I'll never forget. So when I saw him, it was like, I knew it was in person, but then it almost kind of switched to like a outer body. It was like a weird, like spiritual, like what was weird is we entered this like room as well, and he showed me this massive book, huge book we're talking, and he opened it and he showed me my name in this book. I didn't know what it was at the time, but obviously from talking to people, it could have been the Book of Life. I don't truly know, but I just remember seeing my name written on this book as clear as day. But I also remember me trying to look at all the other names and it was all blurred out. It was all like a sensitive, all of it was blurred out, bar mine. I just remember seeing my name. And then I remember him saying he had to go and I was like, oh, okay. I remember no, please, come on, please stay for 5 more minutes. But I was just in so awe of him, and I'll never ever forget, I was in awe of his beard as well. Because at the same time I was growing a beard, I thought, you're this perfect. It's like everything's just perfect about it. And I remember waking up and staring at the ceiling at like 7 in the morning. So I love my sleep. I'd never be up at 7. You'd never catch me being up at 7 o'clock in the morning. When I woke up, it felt like I just had the most peaceful sleep ever. It felt like I was asleep for like a good 10 years or so, and I've just woke up happily peaceful. And I remember my eyes were staring at the ceiling and be like, I have just met Christ. And what I wanted to do from that moment onwards is run into the streets. And honestly, I just wanted to shout to everyone that I've met him. And I remember messaging that old couple that I mentioned about, and I was like, I need to come, I've got something incredible to tell you. Like, yeah, come round. So as I'm leaving my house, both of the vicars, who are the vicars here, they're a couple, were right outside my house as soon as I left my door. I was like, I was running to them in almost like an out of breath thing. Maybe because I was unfit at the time, I don't know. But I was like, I've got to tell you this. So I mentioned it briefly, and one of the vicars, Kai, was like, come to church tomorrow or something like that, and we'll talk more about it. So I was like, yeah, no worries. But I remember just running through the high street, and I just wanted to tell every single person that was there. I thought, this is, this isn't about me. This is about him. He's so real. And I remember I ran into the old couple's house and I explained everything and whatnot. And I was so lucky enough, the next day I came here, shared my testimony with the vicar, and that's when my church journey started as well. because I said to him, I'd love to share this. It's now on my heart to share it. And he was like, yeah, we can get something going. And I remember the first sort of ball rolling for me being with this church was sharing that testimony. But I shared it and everything and stuff like that. It went okay. But as that month of September progressed, I started to doubt. I let the earthly things take over my mind, and I let the worries and the pressures and trying to, I guess, perform in some sense to those around me. I let that overtake me. And I started to doubt again. And I started to doubt. And I thought, it's probably just some wild dream or something like that. I thought, I'll give it some time. And then as time progressed, it got to October time, and I remember the vicar being like, do you want to be baptised? I didn't know the importance of it, but I was like, sure, we'll go for it. I thought, when in Rome or something like that. So I got baptised, which was a really cool experience. I remember actually coming out because my body didn't want to go under for whatever reason. So it was obviously full immersion in the massive almost baptism pool that we have down there. And I actually remember coming out, you can see on the video, his hand around my neck almost, pulling me back out in a way. But as time passed, I still doubted. I don't know. And it got a couple months in, I thought, I started to get more involved in the church, doing the nativity parts and things like that, and just speaking and linking with more people. But at the back of my mind, I was like, was it real? Because I never want to share false testimony. I never want to give a false facade of Christ. I want it to be true. I want it to be about him. And a bit of time passed. It got to January time, and I remember going to sleep again one night, and nothing. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Nothing special had happened leading up to this. Nothing at all. Just the most random evening in January, possibly ever. And it was, I remember in this dream. So this one was a really vivid dream, and I don't remember dreams usually, so I knew this one was real. I remember almost walking down this hill, and I knew I sat on this rock next to it. It was someone of some really high importance, but I couldn't tell who it was. I didn't really look, and he said to me, Christ is on his way, be ready. As he said that, that guy left, and it was almost like this massive field, and in this massive field, a door appeared out of nowhere. Mate, Jesus just strolled on through that door. It felt like he was 10,000 miles away, but also next to me at the same time. And I remember I didn't say anything to him because I was just in awe on how beautiful he was. So he literally just looked like a normal, almost shepherd in a way, wearing all whites with a little belt around there. I always said the white that he had on was all the sort of white that every mother aspires their children's school shirts to be, that pure, crisp white. And I remember just giving him the biggest hug, and I was laughing with him because I was like, you are real. And it was the most incredible feeling. And I remember waking up from that dream with the same feeling that I had the first time of, staring at the ceiling 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, being like, yeah, he's real. But something in me was because that one was more of a dream. The other one was obviously in person and whatnot. And I thought, I don't know. I doubted again. And I was almost so silly to doubt in a way. I knew, but I was also wrestling with the question, why me? Why is this happening to some random lad from a council estate in Portsmouth? That I'm not perfect. I've been far from perfect person. I've messed up many times. I've done some bad things in my time, but I thought, why me? And I was really bugging myself down with that question. And at the same time, I really hurt a close friend of mine just from letting my own mind take me away from being a true Christian, I guess. But through God's compassion and God's love, I still was getting more involved in the church. I led my first service and things like that, which is something I never thought I'd ever do. I remember I led morning prayer once as well, which was incredible to do. But I still doubted. I was still wrestling with this idea of how could I forgive myself for hurting someone else? How could I forgive myself for messing up, screwing up? I really struggled with that forgiveness of myself. I think growing up playing sports and also being a twin, it was almost a sense of you almost have to get it right a lot of the times and things like that. I always used to put too much pressure on myself. Always did, probably more than I realised. And I always did that. And as soon as I messed up, especially hurting friends and stuff, I was like, what am I doing? So I was digging my own almost burial in a way. I was just digging my way into a hole, and I thought, I couldn't see a way out of it. I could, but it wasn't bad. But at the same time, I was like, I can't. This is going to be a long time healing for myself. But that all sort of got confirmed really in May time of this year so obviously doing the master's year and whatnot, just plugging away academically and stuff like that. And one night, I will never ever forget, May time. It all seems to happen at night time. I've never actually realised that parallel. But one night, just out of the blue, it felt like the warmest of water had been poured onto my head. And I could feel it run down and just fill me with awe and happiness and peace. And I remember I sat up, and there, what I can only describe as the brightest figure in my room, like overcrowned the darkness. Just that darkness just wasn't there. That brightness was just so filling. And I knew it was Christ. I don't know, like something in me, that's Christ. But he said to me, pass me your hands and feet. And he had this like white cloth and started to clean them. And he started to clean my hands and feet. And I remember him saying, like, you're, like that feeling, he didn't say it, but I knew it was just that you are forgiven feeling. And it all, I don't know, when I woke up the next day, it just made sense. It all made sense. And I've been so lucky enough to the point where I've had those experiences. And I've sort of, although I was wrestling with the question of why me, it got to a point when I was like, Toby, just shut up and accept it. Just come on, just use this. And it's been on my heart since then to share it with others because, like I said, it's not about me. It's about Christ. It's only about him, and it's only because of him that this is possible, that I'm talking to you here today, that I'm lucky enough working for the church now. So I'm the apprentice here, and I feel so called to go into ministry after. It's beyond a joke. You know, it's something that I never, ever thought I'd ever say to you, to be quite honest with you. But I know I'm so lucky with those experiences, but it's, like I say, it's not about me, because the same way he looked at me is the same way he looks at us all. A love and compassion deeper than understanding, you know. And I always used to question testimonies, but like, how could you see these things? How could you feel these things? You know, what's going on here? Oh, like, I don't know. As someone who never believed before, I can't tell you how real he is. So yeah, that's my...
You've done well, mate. You've done well to articulate that, because these experiences, you hear about them occasionally. And for people, you know, it sounds wild, it sounds unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yet the difference you can see that it's made in your life, you know, and you weren't necessarily looking for these things, this encounter, and you've not got that religious background, or you've not been prepped for those experiences, you know, they've just happened.
Yeah, literally just off the cuff happened, yeah.
Yeah, powerful. What do your mates think about it, who know you or journeyed with you a bit?
So, it's really interesting actually, because I've got quite tough skin now because I used to be a football referee, so I've heard everything, yeah. But they've all been like, wow, okay, that's quite cool. Even my family and stuff like that as well. But I always say, if you don't believe it or if you're against it, so be it. Yeah. So be it, because I know how it's changed my life, and it would never would have happened, you know. That's why I think it's Galatians 1 verse 12 so much, where I've not received the word from, you know, just any random bloke from Christ, but from Christ. And it's one of those, like I said, you can believe me, you don't have to believe me. That's fine, you know, everyone's got their own opinions and stuff like that. And I will love you no matter what your opinion. And I know God will love you. But at the end of the day, I know how it's affected my life. And I now know I live with Christ each day, walking and just trying to be helping people. You know, we are all called to be the sort of the lighthouses in the darkness for him, and just really trying to help those in need, those who feel worthless, those who may not know where to turn or may feel like they're at a dead end, you know. I always thank him for that experience now of, you know, being in that dark hole, because without that, I wouldn't have known the light of him and the salvation of him. So, yeah.
It's powerful, mate. Thank you for sharing.
No, thank you.